Welcome to Elluminate Live version 10. Here's a quick overview. The first thing you're going to want to do when you get into elive is to check your audio. This is something you should do every time you get in because you never know if your settings are a little different, and it's very frustrating when you're in class and talking and people can't hear you or you can't hear. So you go to Tools, Audio Setup Wizard, as you can see on this slide here, and your system will look different than mine. It just depends on which output and input options you have available on your computer. What you want to do is go through the steps, make sure you can hear. Now, can I hear that? I can't hear anything. So what I'm going to do is hit stop and say, no, I was not able to hear it. Try again. Choose a different one. Click OK. And that one I can hear fine. So I'm going to hit stop and hit yes. And now I'm moving on to input or microphone. And I can, you can see on my system I have quite a few to choose from, so it might be a little confusing until you figure out which one works best. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this one and record myself, and it looks like it's working. Notice it's automatically reducing the sound a little bit because it's a little too loud. And I'm going to play it back. Oh, so it's too loud, yeah, but it works. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes and okay, and I'm finished with audio setup. So now I know I'm ready to go, and I will be able to hear and speak. And you use this microphone button down here at the bottom left to talk, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. These settings allow you to adjust. Sometimes they move around a little bit and they self-adjust if you're too loud or too soft, but you can drag them yourself. The top one is your own mics, so if someone says you're too soft or too loud, and then the second one is your speakers, so what you hear. The other thing that's important to do right when you get into elive is once you are ready to go, hopefully you've arrived early, and then you can just hit the step away button. Your name becomes italics, and then you can work on something else until it's time for class to begin. You hit the button again and it shows that you are back. And if you ever get interrupted during class, it's very nice to let people know that you're not paying your full attention, that you've been interrupted. And so at any time just mark away and back so people don't address you directly when you're not actually going to be able to answer. So the major parts of the Elluminate Live 10 screen, your buttons look a little different than in this screenshot because this is what the moderator sees, but you do have some buttons and menu items available at the top that you can explore. These main buttons allow you to save or print the whiteboards, change your view, which is really useful. So you want to try out each of these different views and find out which you prefer. I like the wide layout personally because it gives more room when you have a larger class, and it also just kind of depends on what you're doing in class, which view you would be better off with. So you can play around with those different views. The next button is application sharing, which we'll look at in a minute, but basically that allows you to show anything on your computer to the rest of the class. Then you can transfer files. And you can also use the video if you have a webcam. What you do is click that button, hit preview till you see yourself. And if you want to change any of the settings, you can do that. And for other people to see you, you need to hit transmit. So elive allows you to have up to 6 videos. Maybe this version allows even more, but that's not used too much in typical elive class sessions. There's also a button to show a place where you can take some notes. So the major parts of the screen include the list of participants, of course, with the student and moderator's name. The moderator's going to be at the top. A list of indicators at the right. These first 2 columns show if you've raised your hand. And the raise hand button is used primarily as a way to interrupt someone on the microphone to say, I need to ask a question or clarify something before you go on. And it flashes and blinks on the moderator's screen. And either the moderator or you must put your hand down, or else it'll just still be up. The next column is for the polling buttons. There are polling buttons down here below the participant window. The default buttons are a green check for affirmative and a red X for negative. So your instructor may ask you a question and then you can answer, and that shows up by your name. And those usually the instructor will just clear out automatically, so you can usually just leave those and the instructor will take care of them. Also, there are emoticons that are typically used for you to just give reactions without having to raise your hand and interrupt, but just, agree with somebody or smile or laugh. Since you aren't generally looking at each other, it's important to use these emoticons to let people know if you're confused or you don't like something or you want to applaud. These buttons turn off by themselves. So you just click it once and it flashes a few times and then it just stops on its own. So they're real easy to use, and most instructors will encourage you to use those to give some feedback. The indicators to the right of that just show your ability to use the microphone, video, chatting, and application sharing, and then use the whiteboard tools, which are over here. So your instructor generally will give you all of those abilities, but if any of them are turned off, you'll see those indicators change. And below the participant window, you have a chat window. And generally, this is used throughout class just to add any comments or questions without having to interrupt the person who's speaking, and to add additional information. You can also right-click on that chat window to make the text a little bit larger if you want to be able to see it better. And notice the default is to send a message to this room, and so that would be, in this case, everybody. But if your instructor is using breakout rooms, then if you're inside a breakout room and you send a message, it'll only go to people in that same breakout room, not everybody. But notice that you can click that button, send messages just to the moderators or to individual participants. The instructor, who is the moderator, will be able to see all messages, however. So again, useful way to communicate and used just ongoing throughout the class. And below that is the microphone, and the microphone button is easy to use. You click it once to turn on your mic and then you can speak, and you notice the green line here indicating that I should be able to be heard just fine, and then I click the button again to turn it off. So don't try to hold that button down, but instead just click once to turn it on, speak, and make sure you click once to turn it off, because the default settings for elive is just one person can talk at a time. So you'll need to remember to make sure you turn off the microphone when you're done speaking so that someone else has a chance to speak. Your instructor may set it up to allow multiple people to speak at once. It just kind of depends on how he or she wants to do it. And so the whiteboard generally will be set up with slides, whatever your instructor has prepared for your class. And these tools allow you to interact with that information. So the most commonly used tools probably are the pen tool, that you can emphasize something in what you might call markup, or the highlighter tool. You can also add text. So if you're doing some brainstorming like you would on a regular whiteboard, you can use the A tool to type in just one or two words. But if you have a lot to type in, then you can use the A with the lines button, and that actually allows you to drag a whole box of text that will scroll, and you can just keep typing and it'll wrap within that text box. So those are the most commonly used tools, but there are a number of others to add pictures and so on to the whiteboard. And as I said, application sharing could be very useful. It's this button up here, and when you click it, it gives you all of the different applications you can share. Notice I don't have any, and that's because everything that's not Elluminate I have minimized. So something that's minimized is not going to show up there. If I bring something back bigger, like there I just opened Microsoft Word, now Microsoft Word is over on my other monitor, so it's not showing up. There it is. So I could share something in Microsoft Word or Adobe Acrobat or whatever it is I want to do. I don't recommend sharing the entire desktop, just because then it also shows the everybody else in your class your elive in addition to their elive, which gets a little bit complicated. So when you do application sharing, then your slide or your screen will change quite a bit, because it will automatically switch the views. Remember, we talked about the different views, which you can get to on the view menu or this button down here. So it'll automatically switch the views so that all of elive is just collapsed over here onto the left side, so that your application takes the main stage. So when you're looking for that same button to turn off elive, instead of at the top, it'll be right here on the side. And that's the way you get out of application sharing, same way you got in. You just have to look for the button in a different place. So the other thing that I didn't mention is when you're using these tools on the whiteboard, there are some different options down here at the bottom for colors and fonts and things like that. But for the most part, that should get you going on elive 10, so enjoy it.